Julia hummed softly as she set the breakfast table, the scent of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window, casting golden hues across the neatly arranged plates. It was just another normal day, or so she thought. Her husband Minjun stepped into the kitchen, adjusting the cuffs of his navy blue suit. His dark hair was still slightly damp from his shower, and his wristwatch gleamed under the light. "You're up early," he said with a small smile, slipping an arm around her waist. Julia leaned into his embrace. "I had to make sure you eat before heading out. You work too much." Minjun chuckled, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. "One last meeting today, then I'm all yours this weekend. I promise." She rolled her eyes playfully, handing him his coffee. "I'll believe it when I see it." Minjun smirked, taking a sip. "I'll make it up to you." Julia watched as he grabbed his briefcase and headed toward the door. Something inside her made her pause. "Minjun," she called. He turned, raising an eyebrow. "Be safe, okay?" His gaze softened. "Always." And with that, he stepped out. Julia had no idea it would be the last time she saw him. By noon, she expected a text from Minjun. He always messaged her when he arrived at work or before an important meeting. But today there was nothing. She sent him a message. "Julia, hey, how's your meeting going?" No response. An hour passed. Then 2. Still nothing. By evening, Julia paced the living room, her phone clutched in her hands. Dinner sat untouched on the table, growing cold. She dialed his number for the 3rd time. Straight to voicemail. Her stomach twisted with unease. Minjun was never this unresponsive. Something was wrong. By nightfall, Julia was in full-blown panic mode. She called his office. His colleagues hadn't seen him since morning. She checked with his assistant. He never showed up for his meeting. Her fingers trembled as she called the police, her voice barely steady. "My husband is missing," she told them. "He left for work this morning and never came back." The officer on the other end asked routine questions. His schedule, his last known location, whether they had argued recently. "We didn't fight," Julia whispered. "He just disappeared." The officer promised to investigate, but she could hear the hesitance in his tone. People went missing all the time. Some left voluntarily. Some returned within a day. But Julia knew Minjun. He wouldn't just leave. Something terrible had happened. Days passed. Then weeks. No sign of Minjun. The police finally found his car, abandoned near an empty road on the outskirts of the city. The wreckage suggested a severe accident, the front bumper crushed, glass shattered. But something didn't add up. Upon closer inspection, signs of foul play emerged, subtle yet undeniable. There was no blood, no signs of Minjun inside. His bank accounts remained untouched, and his phone was still off, as if someone had erased his presence without a trace. The news sent Julia into a frenzy. If it was an accident, why wasn't he in a hospital? If it was something worse, why had no one come forward? She searched every hospital, desperate for any record of an unidentified patient matching his description. Nothing. She even reached out to the Korean embassy, hoping for answers. Again, nothing. Each dead end chipped away at her hope. One evening, after another exhausting day of searching, she sat on the bathroom floor, knees pulled to her chest. Her body had been feeling strange for days. She had ignored it, too consumed with worry. But tonight, something urged her to check. Hands trembling, she picked up the pregnancy test from the sink. 2 pink lines and her world tilted. Tears blurred her vision as she clutched the small test to her chest. Minjun was gone. And now she carried his child. She had never felt more alone in her life. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over across bustling streets. The scent of grilled plantains and fresh bread filled the evening air as Julia made her way home, balancing a grocery bag in one hand and holding onto the small, warm fingers of her 6-year-old son, Nathan, with the other. "Mommy, can we have jollof rice tonight?" Nathan asked, his dark brown eyes gleaming with excitement. Julia chuckled, squeezing his hand. "You had jollof yesterday, Nate." "But jollof is the best," he argued, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. Julia smiled, her heart swelling with love. He looked so much like his father, Minjun. The same sharp jawline, the same expressive eyes that sparkled when he smiled. She quickly shook off the thought. It had been 6 years. 6 long years since the day Minjun disappeared. She had spent the first few years in a haze of grief, searching endlessly, hoping for answers. But eventually, she had to accept the truth. He was gone. Now her world revolved around Nathan. They entered their small but cozy apartment, filled with framed pictures of the two of them. Birthday celebrations, school achievements, and countless memories that reminded Julia of how far they had come. She set the groceries down and checked her phone. A new email notification flashed on the screen. Her breath hitched as she read the subject line. Job offer, LK Group strategist. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Julia stared at the email, her heart racing. LK Group was one of South Korea's leading business firms. The opportunity to work there was nothing short of a dream come true. She had applied months ago, on a whim, never expecting to hear back. Yet here it was, an official offer. Nathan peeked over her shoulder. Mommy, what's that? Julia hesitated. It's a job offer. In South Korea. Nathan tilted his head. Where Daddy is from. A lump formed in Julia's throat. She had always been honest with Nathan about Minjun. She had told him stories, shown him pictures, and answered his endless questions. But one thing she never promised was that they would see him again. Still, the hope in Nathan's eyes made her chest tighten. Would we move there? He asked curiously. Julia let out a slow breath. If I accept the job, yes. Nathan considered this for a moment, then grinned. Do they have jollof rice in Korea? Julia burst out laughing, pulling him into a tight hug. No, but I promise we'll find something just as delicious. But deep down, her mind swirled with uncertainty. Going to Korea meant facing the past she had buried. It meant stepping into Minjun's world, a place where he had once belonged. And even though she had convinced herself he was gone forever, something inside her whispered that this journey would change everything. The moment Julia stepped off the plane, a wave of crisp, cool air greeted her. The bright neon lights of Incheon International Airport illuminated the vast, modern space, and the steady hum of announcements in Korean filled the air. Nathan clung to her side, his eyes wide with curiosity. Mommy, it's so big, he whispered, craning his neck to take in the bustling crowd. Julia smiled, tightening her grip on his small hand. Yes, it is, sweetheart. Truthfully, she was just as overwhelmed. She had read about South Korea, watched countless videos, and listened to Jaiwo's stories over the years. But being here, in Minjun's homeland, felt surreal. A familiar voice called out. Julia! She turned just in time to see Jaiwo, her best friend from their university days, rushing toward her with a bright smile. Dressed in an elegant beige trench coat, her dark brown hair styled effortlessly as always, she looked exactly the same. Jaiwo! Julia exhaled in relief as they embraced tightly. Jaiwo pulled back, studying her face. Wow, you haven't changed a bit. Then her gaze dropped to the little boy beside Julia, watching curiously. Her eyes softened. And this must be Nathan. Nathan blinked up at her. Are you Mommy's friend? Jaiwo bent slightly to his level, smiling warmly. Yes, I am. And I've been waiting to meet you for so long. Nathan tilted his head. Are you nice? Jaiwo burst into laughter. I'd like to think so. Julia chuckled, shaking her head. Nathan likes to test people before he decides if they're okay. Jaiwo ruffled his hair playfully. Well, I promise I'm the nicest person you'll ever meet. Now, let's get you both out of here. I have a car waiting. As they walked through the airport, Jaiwo glanced at Julia. How does it feel? Being here for the first time. Julia hesitated before answering. Strange. Exciting. Overwhelming. She swallowed. It feels like I've stepped into a different world. Jaiwo nodded knowingly. It's a lot to take in, but don't worry. I'm here, and I'll help you settle in. Julia gave her a grateful smile. I don't know what I'd do without you. Jaiwo grinned. Well, let's just say you owe me a lifetime supply of Ghanaian food in return. Nathan perked up. Do you like jollof rice? Jaiwo gasped dramatically. I love jollof rice. Nathan beamed. Then you're okay. Julia and Jaiwo burst into laughter as they stepped outside into the cool Seoul night, ready to begin this new chapter of their lives. As they moved through the bustling airport parking lot, Julia felt a mix of excitement and anxiety settle in her chest. South Korea was nothing like Ghana. Everything was sleek, fast-paced, and brightly lit even though it was late in the evening. Jaiwo unlocked a black SUV parked near the entrance. Come on, let's get you both settled. I booked a hotel for you tonight, and tomorrow, we'll go apartment hunting. Nathan climbed into the back seat, and Julia settled beside him while Jaiwo started the car. As they pulled out of the airport, Nathan stared in awe at the bright city lights, his eyes darting from one towering building to another. Mommy, everything is so shiny, he gasped. Jaiwo laughed. That's Seoul for you. It never sleeps. Julia, on the other hand, couldn't focus on the scenery. Her mind was racing with everything that lay ahead: her new job, adjusting to a foreign country, and most of all, the possibility of facing Minjun. Did she want to see him? Would he even recognize her? Did he even survive? Shaking the thought away, she turned her attention back to Jaiwoo, who was humming along to a song playing softly on the radio. "How have you been?" Julia asked. "It's been too long since we last saw each other." Jaiwoo sighed. "Busy as always. Running a fashion business is no joke. But I love it." She grinned. "You'll be my model soon. I need a Ghanaian beauty to showcase my designs." Julia chuckled. "I'll think about it." Jaiwoo glanced at her through the rearview mirror. "And you? How do you feel about being here?" Julia hesitated. "I'm still processing it. I mean, Minjun is from here." Jaiwoo's hands tightened on the steering wheel slightly. "Have you looked him up?" Julia shook her head. "No. I don't even know where to start. And I'm not sure I want to." Jaiwoo sighed. "I understand. But Julia, you deserve closure." Julia stared out the window. Closure. She wasn't sure she'd ever get that. The car rolled to a stop in front of an upscale hotel in Gangnam. The tall glass structure gleamed under the streetlights, exuding luxury. "Wow," Nathan whispered. Jaiwoo turned to him. "Do you like it?" Nathan nodded. "Is this where we'll live?" Jaiwoo giggled. "For tonight, yes. But don't worry, we'll find you a nice home soon." A bellboy rushed to help with their luggage as they stepped into the hotel lobby. The warm lighting and elegant decor made Julia feel slightly out of place. "Your room is on the 10th floor, Jaiwoo said, handing her the key card. "Get some rest tonight, okay? Tomorrow, we have a long day ahead." Julia hugged her. "Thank you, Jaiwoo. For everything." Jaiwoo smiled. "That's what friends are for." After bidding Jaiwoo good night, Julia and Nathan took the elevator up to their room. The moment they stepped inside, Nathan ran to the large window, pressing his hands against the glass. "Mommy, look. The city looks like stars." Julia walked over and wrapped her arms around him from behind, staring at the glowing skyline. Somewhere in this vast city, Minjun existed. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in part 2.